Good evening, brothers and sisters from Australia. It's been an absolutely beautiful day here, and pure sunshine, and of course with the kangaroos and the wallabies, it's been a real blessing. I can see that there's a number of you on already, which is really, really good, and we look forward. Welcome, Lorraine. Glad you can join us. Bless you. It's a blessing to have you online. Yuta, welcome. Blessings to you. And tonight I want to talk a little bit about My Beloved, a little bit of the background to this book, My Beloved. Welcome, Judy. Happy midweek to you. Welcome, Norman, and I'm guessing Sarah as well. So glad that you can join us for this presentation. So before I continue, I would just like to kneel and we will pray. Father in heaven, we just give you thanks for your great love for us. We thank you that we are your beloved children. We thank you, Lord Jesus, that you truly are the Son of God and you have received all things of your Father. We thank you that through you we can inherit all things. And I just pray for your spirit, for everyone that is watching and that will watch, and that we would be filled with joy as we go through some of the foundings of this message and we consider some of the implications for the future. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. So it was back in 2006, towards the end of that year, that I really began to think about the sonship of Jesus. And of course, I document this in the book Return of Elijah. I had been working for a number of years on the principles of Identity Wars, the book Identity Wars, and the relational value system. We get our value through the relationship with our Father. You are my beloved child in whom I'm well pleased. And this is familiar to most of you. And applying these principles, of course, I came to the subject of the Son of God. And I still remember very clearly thinking about, well, if I don't get my value from what I perform, what I achieve, and what I have inherently, then what about the Son of God? Is he valuable because of his power, position, or performance? Or is he valuable because his Father has blessed him? And that was the beginning. That really opened up for me, like, oh, this really is important. And so, of course, the more I delved into it, the more I could see that the doctrine of the Trinity really was destroying the assurance that we have of the Father's love in a very practical and meaningful way. And of course, in 2010, I wrote my letter of apology. I apologized to many people for baptizing them into the Trinity. And some of you will remember that time. And it was not long after that as I began to look at the doctrine of the Trinity, I could see other people, of course, had already been writing on this subject, and there was a real emphasis on the fact that the Trinity was wrong. And there's a saying, I know we have this in English, I don't know in other languages we say this, it's like, don't curse the darkness, but light a candle in the darkness. Dispel darkness with light, which means focus on the beauty of truth, and this will expose the darkness of error rather than focus on the bad. And this is a point that many people miss, and it's sad to see that many people love to see people cursing darkness. It really doesn't have a lasting effect on the heart. For the intellect, for the mind, it can be stimulating to see the errors and faults of others, and many channels focus on the faults and errors of others, and that's very precarious. I'll just say that at this stage. But I remember in 2011, I remember exactly where I was. I went for a walk with my family. We went to we're living down in Victoria, which is about 2,000 kilometres south of where we are now, and they have it's called what they call Big River Country, the Murray River, and we were living not too far where two major rivers in the Australian river system meet, the Murray and the Darling rivers. And of course, with rivers, when they tend to move like this, sometimes a river, as it goes around, it can shorten the bend, and it leaves a body of water behind, which in Australia we call a billabong. And a billabong is it becomes a lake essentially, and still sometimes can be fed by the river so that the water doesn't become stagnant. But often a lot of wildlife comes and dwells in this what we call billabong, and we walk to a place, and I remember standing thinking about the Trinity, and I was saying, Lord, should I write something about the Trinity and why it's wrong? Welcome, Sharon. Glad you can join us, and Ian and Megan. Glad you can join us. Should I write something exposing, why the Trinity is wrong? And I still remember very clearly the impression that came into my mind. Tell them why you love me. And so that was the beginning of the book, My Beloved, why I love the Son of God, why he is so precious to me. And the introduction to the book is in a Song of Solomon style of the joy that I have experienced in realizing the truth of what it means to believe in the only begotten Son. This is not just an intellectual thing, because the begotten Son is a real person, and in embracing him, I entered into a relationship with a real person. And before that, it was quite confused because I didn't have a clear picture of the begotten Son. I partly believed it, I partly didn't. I was confused, like many of us. I won't say most, but many of us were confused. And so it was foggy in my mind, but then the clarity came about the Son of God and how wonderful he is. I began to write this book, and I wrote it on the basis of the book Pilgrim's Progress. I was a great lover of Pilgrim's Progress, and of course, Kirk Van Buren's rendition of that. He spoke the main character in the audio version done by an Adventist group, and that series of tapes was tapes back then in the 80s. I played all the time. I loved it. So this book is based on Pilgrim's Progress and the progression of Pilgrim's Progress. And there's something important that I really want us to understand, and that again relates to the principle of the divine pattern of life. And in this book, I talk about, in the divine pattern of life, I have a chapter. I can't remember where exactly it is in the chapter, but I talk about Plato. And I can't exactly remember where it is in the book, but I can say it is written. It's here in the book. It's only a short book. Talk about Plato. Welcome, Tommy. Welcome, Kevin. Glad that you can join us. And Plato's idea of reason and emotion. And again, they're two co-equal principles for most people, and they're oppositional principles. But in the divine pattern, logic and reason is the source. And when logic and reason is in harmony with the truth, it will manifest itself in great joy, peace, love, all the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, kindness, patience, it manifests itself in all of these ways. It is a fruit that comes from the truth. Now, welcome, Adam. So glad you can join us. And this is what My Beloved is about, because I think many of you realize that there are plenty of people who come into the doctrine of the Father and Son, not necessarily because of the beauty of the begotten Son, but because from an intellectual point of view, it's proving that the church is wrong. It's proving that the church is in error. And because the natural human mind is oppositional in nature, many people, growing number of people, gravitate towards the teaching of the begotten Son because it is oppositional to the church. And this does not produce love, joy, peace. And you can listen to many presentations about Father and Son, and many of them have a vibration or a frequency of hostility or aggression or calling out error and attacking. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't ever call out error. We need to, but I'm always reminded of the people who would work in a mint where they would print money and they would count money, and the way to detect false notes that were fake notes, the way to detect them was not to get all the fake notes and work out they were, but to handle real money all the time, to be handling real money. So as soon as you've handled many notes that are real, as soon as you touch a note that is not real, you know straight away, because you've been focusing on the real and the true, not the false and the bad. And this is an important principle. And so there are plenty of people that have joined themselves to this movement, the Father of Love movement, not only because of the beauty of the character of God, but because of the intellectual exercise, the logic, the reason, the analysis. And many times many people will say, well, I just want a simple answer. You know, did God send down fire from heaven on Sodom and Gomorrah or not? Tell me, yes or no. And you don't have to go into all these details. You don't have to go into all these deep logical explanations and everything like that. And of course, we wouldn't have to if we weren't in so much darkness. But because we're in so much darkness, we need to put layer upon layer, line upon line. And there's a lot of logic, a lot of analysis, and a lot of reason. And for those of us that have been studying this message, line upon line, I should start precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. There's a growing sense of joy. There's a growing sense of just awe for the beauty of our Father, the wonder of his character. And so the emotion is something that must, if you're in a divine pattern, the emotion will magnify the reason. This is the point I'm making. There will be an intensity of emotion that comes. Now, when that intensity of emotion comes, this is going to cause a shaking, because most people that aren't secure in their relationship with their Father in heaven, when there's an intensity of emotion that is genuine, there can be intensity of emotion that's not genuine. I understand that as well. But when there's an intensity of emotion that is genuine, that is connected to logic, reason, and truth, it will cause discomfort for those who are not fully settled into the message, that still are operating more in their heads and haven't reached down into their hearts. And so we've been working with this message for a number of years now, particularly since 2015. There were some preliminary steps from 2006-7, obviously going back to 2001 with the identity message, but 6, 7, 8 with Life Matters, Divine Pattern, My Beloved. These books, well, obviously Return of Elijah, started to develop in the foundational stage. But then from 2015 to 2022, we've had an acceleration of the development of the present cross, the 1888 message, the investigative judgment, the true atonement. All of these things have started to come, and we've really started to develop those things after 2022, getting right into the atonement and the understanding of the blood. And it's just been joyous to see Wagner, Jones and Fifield presenting these beautiful truths. It's such a joy to have these confirmations. So we are coming to a point where, and because I'm a student of history, which I hope that many of you are as well, when you look at the great movements of history, you look at the time of Martin Luther, you look at the time of John Wesley, look at the time of the Adventist pioneers and the Millerite movement. There was always a music movement that coincided with the presentation of a message. And this is the divine pattern. This is how the divine pattern works. There is the working out of the intellectual foundations of a message. There is the pillars of a message that need to be put in place. Then there is the realization of the beauty of that message that is falling as drops of rain. And then there is the heart response. Then there is, as Ellen White said in 1888, and she said, "Oh, how I love him. I love him. And I see in him such matchless charms." This is the response. This is the heart response. Now, some people may say, well, she's a woman, and that's, women are emotional and that type of thing. Well, that's a bit sad because, again, that may be just a greater expression, but for us as men, we also need to be able to say, "Oh, how I love him." And I want you to remember Desire of Ages. I think it's 565. Let me pull that up. Desire of Ages. I just want to look at that. 565. Yes, here it is. Just love this. This is beautiful. The end of 564. Is it 564? Yeah, 565, beginning of 565. The work of Mary was just the lesson the disciples needed to show them that the expression of their love for him would be pleasing to Christ. He had been everything to them, and they did not realize that soon they would be deprived of his presence, that soon they could offer him no token of their gratitude for his great love. The loneliness of Christ, separated from the heavenly courts, living the life of humanity, was never understood or appreciated by the disciples as it should have been. He was often grieved because his disciples did not give him that which he should have received from them. He knew that if they were under the influence of the heavenly angels that accompanied him, they would think no offering of sufficient value to declare their heart's spiritual affection. And this is the point we're coming to, is that a message has come, a message that is beautiful. And when we really take it to heart, we should be moving towards purchasing the spikenard in the alabaster box to pour it out. And therefore, it is for this reason that this movement needs its own music. It needs its own lyrics. It needs its own songs to express these things. Now, my mother has been a music teacher all of her life. She tried to teach me the piano, which I didn't handle too well, but she did manage to teach me the guitar. And I have sung in choirs, I have sung in quartets, I have sung duets, solo, I have conducted choirs, and music has been a very big part of my life. I wrote a paper in my undergraduate degree in theology. I did a paper, I think it's on the Maranatha Media website, called Music in Worship. And I studied very carefully the principles of music and what the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy teach on the subject of music, and what are the principles of good music. At the same time, before I studied music and before I studied theology, from the age of 12, I have been working with computers. I got my first computer when I was 12 or 13 years of age, around 1980. And I've been programming them ever since that time. And I have built many computers. I have worked I've worked with them. I've programmed them. I have done an undergraduate degree in computing. So welcome, Alexandra. Glad you can join us. So computers are something that are very familiar to me, and programming computers is what I did for a long time, along with accounting and management and things like that. So we come to a point where, because we are a scattered group of people around the world, we are often dependent on technology for us. We are talking, you are listening to this broadcast. And of course, as you're looking at your screen and you're hearing the audio, you're hearing a voice and you're seeing an image, and this image is moving, which causes you to think that what you are seeing and what you are hearing is me. But in reality, the computer is taking samples of my voice, and it is digitizing those and putting them into hexadecimal and then down into ones and zeros. And this is being transmitted. The ones and zeros are being transmitted, and your computer or your phone is interpreting those ones and zeros and putting up on your screen an image that looks like me and sounds like me. But you're not actually listening. You're not actually hearing my voice. I'm the only one hearing my voice in the room that I'm in, because you're all in different parts of the world. And because I have been a computer programmer, I understand the principles of how sampling occurs. Depending on what device you're using, you're getting 25 frames to 29.97 frames, or maybe 30 frames per second. Every second, 30 frames, 25 frames are being sampled and created, and to create an image to make it look lifelike and that it looks like me. But it's not actually me. It's a computer simulation. And this is something that is important to understand in our dissemination of information. Now, we learned something very interesting in 2020, that when we were involved in lockdowns and hardly anyone could come to Passover that year, that we did all the presentations. There was no one in the audience. There was no one there because no one could come. And we did the presentations. And as the presentations went out, everybody commented the tremendous sense of the spirit that they felt, the connection that they felt, the joy that they felt. And that was a confirmation for me that in this technology, that God can use this technology, this digitization, to move things around to different parts of the world, and that the Spirit can still flow. It can still speak to hearts in response to what they are hearing and what they are seeing through a digital platform, and that the Spirit can work through these things. And I took note of that. That was very important, because we have come come to a time where computer software and computer technology, its ability to sample information and to put it together to mimic human behavior is becoming extremely sophisticated, largely because of the processing power of computers and the ability to store large amounts of information in databases. And I did a lot of work in my degree in database development. I've done a lot of database programming, and so these things are very familiar to me. So the combination, in my experience, of music and computers, these are two things that my father has trained me in, and I believe for a specific purpose, along with the study of the scriptures and the study of these things. So some of you have noticed that we've been putting out some music more recently, and we're beginning to put music together with our lyrics, our message. We are writing the music, and we are then going to these software programs and giving it a set of instructions as to what we want, and then this music comes out. Now, for some people, this is a bit alarming. It's a bit wary because they don't understand the technology. They don't understand how it works. And because of a lot of material that is on the internet about the word AI, artificial intelligence, for some people, there's a blanket put over all of this as it's all evil. And for me, it was programming computers back in the 1980s. One of the assignments I had to do for my undergraduate degree in computer programming was to develop an AI program. And artificial intelligence is programmed intelligence. It's the intelligence that men have put into coded language, into mathematical formulas to create ones and zeros. I was doing this in the late 1980s in an elementary form. It's not mysterious. It's not that hard to understand for someone in my position who is very used to hexadecimal ones and zeros, third level, fourth level language, programming languages, hard drives, memory, CPUs. This is all very normal for me. And so that, because of the processing power, the ability to simulate human behavior has become very powerful. And of course, these things can be used to do evil. We have such things as deep fakes, where people can superimpose someone's picture over the top of someone else or implicate them in what appears to be a video of this particular person. This is evil to do these things, to misrepresent a different person, or to place things into a video to, like a Trojan horse, to undermine someone or to cause them difficulty. That has always, computers have always had that capacity, but computers equally have a capacity to do good. And for anyone that's used a word processor, I was using word processing back again in the 1980s on my green screen computer, and we used to use WordPerfect back then, before Microsoft Word really took off, and we had the ability to spell check. Now, spell check is programmed intelligence, which you could call artificial intelligence, because it goes through and checks your words and it makes sure that you're spelling them correctly. It's just programmed intelligence. There's nothing difficult about that. Many of us have been doing this for a long time. And of course, that programmed intelligence now has come up to the speed where it can translate from one language to another very, very quickly, because of the computing power, which is a tremendous blessing. Now, if it wasn't for this computing power, I mean, over the last 7 or 8 years, we have had 1,200 translations of different books produced, and computing power has been used. Of course, getting an exact translation from a computer is impossible, because it doesn't understand some things. It doesn't have a perfect subset of the universe to be able to put it all together and understand perfectly. but it can do a 95, 96% job, often 90, 95, with technical subjects, theological subjects, maybe 90%. And you need someone to go through and check and make sure that the metaphors that are being used are correctly represented between one language and another language. But it has sped up our process to be able to translate and to be able to put subtitles into YouTube videos and to generate your own subtitles, to automatically sync. It's speeding things up for us. And these are all the marvels of computers. And one of the jobs that I had as a computer programmer, as an accountant, was to look at an office workflow. And I talk about this in Escaping the Pentagon of Lies, where I traced how data was flowing through the office, as in how they were typing things in, printing things out, and where data was moving around, and working out ways to make that process go faster and more efficient. And that's what we're doing with computers. And again, I've been doing this for a long time. So when it comes to producing music, there is the concern that a music created by a computer is not directly connected to a human. And I just need to point out to you that you think that you're listening to me now, but you're not. You're not listening to me. The computer is simulating my voice and simulating my movements. You're listening to a digitized simulation of me. Sampling has been taken, has been reproduced by a computer. And this has been taken to another level with music, which now is of such a standard that we can produce symphonies, orchestras at a very high quality, vocal qualities, because sampling is done of a large database of a whole lot of different individuals. Of course, the computer can then draw on that sampling, this sampling, and it can put these samples together. And this is enabling us to produce this music along with some imagery. And this is part of the emotional response to the message that we have been given. So, of course, some people are concerned about this, partly because they don't understand the technology, partly because this technology is being used to do evil things. But it's not all that way. And so we have started to produce some music. Now, one of the things that has concerned me in terms of listening to music. Now, again, when you listen to music online, you think you're listening to that person, but you're not listening to that person or to their instruments. You are listening to a computer simulation of their instruments and of their voice and of their expression. It's not them. It's a computer simulation. And you have been touched by that music, and you have been blessed by that music, if it's good music, through the computer simulation. And sometimes with music that really touches you, it allows God to speak to you. And this is understandable. And I see that God works through these technologies. Now, one thing that I find interesting is that, having worked with many choirs and done a lot of music, is that in a church environment, when someone gets to a high standard of music, they quickly become sought after, and they start traveling around to different places and doing their music. And because people's hearts are touched by the music that is presented, people tend to start to idolize these individuals and elevate them to a certain status. And it's very tempting for these individuals, musicians, to be lifted up. And I've seen this happen many times, where people start out very humble, very gentle, and then they get a larger following, and then they start to adapt their music, and they start to make it more commercial, and they start to incorporate things that will get larger audiences. And I've seen this happen many times. The other thing that is difficult is much of the music that we listen to online is being performed by people who do not believe in the loving character of God. They do not believe that God has an only begotten Son. And these people are in their music sharing their concepts, their ideas, and this comes through their music. And of course, there is a spirit that comes with it. And so using computer technology, and I assure you that all musicians are using computer technology, whether it be a Logic Pro or whether it be, whatever programs you're using to create music, it's all digitized. It's all sampling of information and putting it out. And we are still getting connection through those samplings. So in this case, it's one step further where we can produce this music of a high quality and a high standard. We can ensure that the lyrics of the music are exactly a representation of the message that we have to give. And I want to make this point. I don't use things like ChatGPT, and I don't use things like Grok and ask them to tell me, like, write me a song or write me a poem. No, I don't believe in doing that. I believe that we should take our inspiration directly from our Father in heaven, particularly for the work that I'm doing. That when I want to write a song or when I want to write a sermon, I want a direct connection with my Father in heaven to produce the content of that sermon or the lyrics of that music. I don't want any other influence. And once I have those lyrics, once I have that sermon, once I have the contents of the book, I then use computing power to disseminate that information, whether through video technologies, streaming, through music software, through graphic software or whatever, translation software. I use the computing power to disseminate the content that I have imagined or that I have created myself. And this is something that I believe that our Father in heaven would have us to do. And the reality is that if it wasn't for computing technology, very few of you would be able to have access to my books. We wouldn't have gone to different parts of the world very easily. Most of you wouldn't even know that I existed. And so, again, computing technology has played its part, enabling us to connect, to come together, to form a community. I know in the early days when I was talking to quite a number of you on Skype, and we've been talking for 3 or 4 years, and then we finally meet each other. And when we met each other, it was like, well, we already know each other, because we got to know each other through the computer simulation, and this is what helped us to form a relationship and to form a friendship, so that we then took the next step to meet in person. So I wanted to talk to you about this, because some people have some concerns and have different points of view. Concerns have been expressed about replacing. When it comes to music in our movement, there are a few people that have written some songs in English. I think of 2 people in particular, and I won't name names because I don't want to miss anybody out. And it's been wonderful to have these things, but we've come to a point where, thank you, Adam, my new hearing aid has an AI chip that comes with a deep neural pre-trained on 12 million of sound. Exactly. It's called AI, but it's just programmed intelligence. It's just programming, and it's powerful, and it can. And I'm just so glad you can hear us, Adam, for someone in the deaf community to be able to engage through these technologies. It's life-changing for someone in Adam's position to have access to computing power to make his hearing capacity so that he can engage in normal activity. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Welcome, Narelle. Glad that you can join us. So I am under the conviction that we need to put the message that we have to song. This morning I spent time writing lyrics for a song to the tune "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God," with our message, our lyrics. And I think we need to redo hymns. And this is something that Martin Luther did. He took popular tunes of his day and he wrote spiritual lyrics of his message to them. And because people understood the music, the message was carried very quickly. And welcome, Robin. Glad you can join us. And we've come to that point. And some of the things that we've created over the last week or so, I've just been so tremendously blessed, and quite a number of you have expressed your joy and just the emotion that now we can listen to music that reflects our message, and that we have the ability to do this. Now, most of us are not trained in orchestral music or have capacities in doing those types of things, but we have access now to tools that enable us to produce music, high quality music with high quality voice, and we can do this at a very low cost, and we can reach out to many people around the world, and they will be touched by the music, and this will hopefully draw them to the books. The channel will lead them to the source. And so I'm going to be engaged for the next little while in producing music. I've spoken to a number of other people, and I said, look, write lyrics, get on your knees, ask Father, give me some lyrics, help me. I want to write about the present cross. I want to write about the channel of blessing. I want to write about identity wars. I want to write about the atonement. I want to write about the nature of Christ. I want to write about whatever. There's so many, the festivals and the statutes and the judgments and the wonders of our Father's commandments and the divine pattern. We need lots of songs. So, and I'm not precluding anyone using standard digitized technology to record your own voice and to record on a guitar or a piano. Again, it's all digitized. Again, it's all recorded into a digital format. It's a simulation of your voice. It's not actually you. It's a simulation of ones and zeros portraying itself as you, but it still has that impact. It still has the capacity to impact people and to do this very fast. And some of the music that we've been able to produce, again, in multiple languages, and this is the thing, is that we can produce music in several languages of high quality, and we can disseminate this on YouTube and other platforms, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, very quickly. And in that music, we can introduce our books so that the heart is touched by the lyrics of the music, and then they are drawn to consider, to read the material and to give it some thought. And this now is a very pivotal moment for our movement. And I wanted to just lay out some points for you as to where I'm coming from. I don't believe it's an accident that my Father in heaven has placed me in a position where three things have played a significant part of my life. One is obviously the scriptures, the Adventist message, the 1888 message, combined with music. I've had music around me, my mother's music teaching, and also computing. Those three things are key to my history and where I come from. And so I'm extremely optimistic and extremely excited about the potential that we have here, and so that we can have music not only for our people, which is an important thing, because so many times you go onto the internet and again, like talk about being wary of computer generated music, but You go into the internet, you listen to someone, you don't know where they come from, you don't know what they believe, you don't know whether they're a Satanist masquerading as a Christian, you've got no idea. And you listen to their music and you take the risk that it could create a breach and come into your home and do you untold damage. We don't need to take those risks. We can create our own music, and we can use computing software to do this. And I think this is a much stronger position, and that we can have a whole range of hymns and songs and tunes. And hopefully, with the creations that we make initially, this will inspire some to write your own music and to create it, and we can have a complete mixture between the two of computer generated vocal music and stuff that you record, both digital, both simulations, both are similar but just in a different context, and that we can have an explosion of music taking place and encouraging people to get into music and to rewrite old hymns with new lyrics and to write new hymns and choruses, but also listening music that we can listen to and be touched by. I've been sharing some of the music that we've been creating in the last week or so with different people, and they've been deeply touched by it. Those that are not familiar with our message, they are drawn to it and they're encouraged by it. So as I said, I've shed many tears this week as I listen to music, because I love orchestra music, I love symphony, I love string quartet, I love classical music, I love classical guitar, I love duet voices, and all of these things in a gentle, but also sometimes with brass or pipe organ and all of these types of things. I love that type of music, and I pray that this will be a blessing for us. As I've prayed about this, I believe my Father has led me in this direction, and that it is something that will help to bring a change. Now, one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, when there comes an intensity of emotion, because music creates intensity of emotion, and when you feel intensity of emotion, you can start to question, where is this coming from? Because you're being moved, and you can start to question, like, what's moving me in this music? Is this really the Spirit of God, or is this something else? And of course, we need to ask those questions of the music that we listen to. But because of this message, because of the lyrics, because of the emphasis that is now coming through in the divine pattern in the Father and Son, the begottenness of the Son, the risk that our Father has taken, this is starting, the beloved that is calling us. This is going to cause somewhat of a shaking amongst God's people because of the intensity of the emotion that comes with it. And we're being asked to connect the intellect and the logic with the emotion, the reason. And for some of us, when the Spirit begins to really speak to us in our hearts, we may subconsciously and in an unrealized way fight and resist and push away, because the Spirit of God is asking for deeper entrance into our hearts. The music is opening up the pathway, and it is speaking to us more deeply. And we may be tempted to pull back and to resist and say, no, because we're being challenged into a vulnerable position. And we don't want that vulnerability. We don't want to become vulnerable. We don't want, for some people, we don't want to appear like we're in tears or crying or any of those types of things. So, but this is part of what happens in a movement. When the intellect comprehends the beauty of the fourth angel's message, it translates into emotion. It must, if it's a divine pattern. If it doesn't, you don't have the truth. If it doesn't translate into a deep, and we read Great Controversy 6:12, It says, God's people will hasten from place to place with faces lighted up, and that it will not be so much by argument, but by deep conviction of the Spirit of God, a deep yearning, a deep love. And as I've listened to some of these tunes, and it's a beautiful tune that Sunette Schubert in South Africa put together for us. And I just want to say, I think this is significant, that it was in response to this book, My Beloved, that Sunette put this music together and wrote the My Beloved is Calling. She responded to this book, and when she shared with me the lyrics, it was just beautiful. And then I helped her to put the music together, and just so moving, so beautiful. And I would go to sleep thinking of Jesus and the Father. I would wake up thinking of Jesus and the Father, and just feeling a deep sense of love for them, because the music was enhancing the intellect, because it's a magnification principle. The emotion is enhancing the intellect. And when the intellect is settled on truth, it is a beautiful thing. It is a good thing. And it is something that we should embrace. And so, again, if you have a certain way that you want to listen to your music, that's fine. And if you still feel you don't want to engage in this, okay, that's fine. But I just ask you not to grumble and complain about those who do like it, or to say that it's bad, because it's not. Not when it's done correctly, not when it's done in the right way. This is a very powerful tool. And of course, Satan doesn't want us to use these tools. He doesn't want us to be able to maximize the impact of this message. So I'm asking all of us to pray that as we move forward in this direction, and I've just been talking today with Danny Brown about putting some of this content on Spotify. One of our believers in Bulgaria had been asking me this. Diana had been asking me this for some time, and it's a platform I'm not familiar with, but Danny is doing that, so we can start to put some of this out onto bigger platforms and speak to people in an accomplished, in a polished piece of music that invites them to click on a link to go to one of our books. Listening, some of you will have heard this, a song that John Penman wrote the other day, The Hour of His Judgment Has Come. Beautiful. I just was so touched by it, so moved by it, because we're the ones judging God, and to see our truth, or the truth that has become ours, to see it put together in song, it's so beautiful. And again, I know who wrote the lyrics, I know who put it together, so I have a relational connection there. I have no problem with this whatsoever. So I ask you to pray for this, and pray for those that are creating music. And maybe you have some lyrics, and if you have some lyrics for a song, send them to us, and we can put them into music, and we can do our best to create. Imagine if we had 10,000 songs. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then we could the ones that we sing the most, we can put into a hymnal. We can have a hymnal of 500 or 600 songs. This is the direction that we need to go, and it will be done in different ways and in different methods. For me, who've been using computers from a very small age, it's very natural for me to operate in this environment. So thank you, Pastor Cecil. Beautiful songs. I've been listening, and we've been producing some in Afrikaans. And I know that you said to me, you were just, wow, this is amazing. And I was deeply touched that the song My Beloved is Calling, that Sunette was able to get me a Dutch translation of that, and that spoke to me very deeply. And I was just thinking of my dear father, who passed away 2 years ago, and how I wish that I could share that music with him. And I've written that in honor. I've put that together in honor of my father. And it all started with this book. So this is where it started. It started with a song that Sonette wrote based on this book, and I think that's highly appropriate, because this is where I really expressed my emotions about my love for the Son of God. And this is the basis of why this is a positive message movement. Positive message movement. We focus on the beauty of our Father's character and the joy that comes with it. Not to condemn others or attack others or judge others or any of those things. That's negative messaging, and it's brass for some. It's pure toxic waste for others. It's horrible. This is positive messaging in a correct framework. So Robin said she'd love to have it. Yes, we can get CDs, of course. You listen to it in the car. We'll certainly do that, Robin, as we continue to prepare so we can listen to music that is our message. And again, some of the music we're producing at the moment is listening music for the individual, but we also want to produce hymns and choruses. And the software I'm using, we can generate MIDI files. We can then plug it into notation software to create the sheet music, so that we can then move towards putting a hymn book together or a chorus book together. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I take comfort, and I'll put the song in the Telegram group that I worked on today, A Mighty Fortress, with the new lyrics. It's not perfected, it never is, but it'll give you an idea of what we can do. And it's a song that you're familiar with, and we can put our new lyrics to them. Of course, it's a public domain song because it was written 500 years ago, so it's clearly in the public domain. We can't use songs that are not in the public domain, and that's great. You know, like imagine writing new lyrics for Be Thou My Vision or Abide With Me or whatever. We can write new lyrics for songs that are 70 years from the death of the author. There's no problems with using public domain music in doing those things, as well as writing new songs. So I thank you for listening. I continue to ask for your prayers as we navigate this space, as we move forward. This is a pivotal moment. This is a transition point, and it is an acceleration point. And that means more and more people are going to be drawn to start to read, start to listen. And the music we put together will be a catalyst for that to take place. And as we say, as Jesus is the way to the Father, correctly orchestrated music is a way to the message. It is a channel, and it is part of the process. As again, in the time of Luther, the time of Wesley, the time of the Adventist pioneers, music always played an important part once the message had been developed. This message has been developed, and we've now come to that point. So thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. And I pray you are blessed. And I will close with a prayer. And as I said, I'll put it in the Telegram group. And if anyone else wants me to message it to them some other way, I can do that. Eventually, I'll put it on YouTube so that you can watch it there. But for now, I'm going to close with a prayer. Dear Father in heaven, I just thank you for this opportunity to talk to my brothers and sisters around the world. We are deeply grateful that you have placed us in a position, you've given us tools to be able to disseminate the message that you have given us, you've poured into our hearts. We love you, Father. We love you, Lord Jesus.
And we pray that you would give us songs in the night season and during the day, and that we would sing the praises of you, our God, and your cross that you have borne over 6,000 years, and the atonement through the blood of grapes, the divine pattern, the channel of blessing. Let us sing the songs that are to accompany this message, that the world may hear, and that the world will vibrate to a new frequency, a new vibration coming into the world. Be with my brothers and sisters. Bless them abundantly, I pray. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thank you, everyone. I wish you a blessed evening, day, afternoon, morning, whatever it is for you. And if you haven't had a chance, go to the YouTube channel and listen to some of the songs. Again, I'm also using software to generate some images. And again, we can create realistic images, lifelike type images very quickly, very cheap. Doesn't cost thousands of dollars like it did before. And I'm just very grateful for this. So God bless you all. And I'll catch you this Sabbath. I'll be live streaming this Sabbath. So God bless for now. Bye-bye.
Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe ye also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you.